5:30. So I will call to order the February 23rd, 2021 Encinitas Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. If I could please have the roll call.
Thank you, Chair Giada. I will take roll. Chair Giada?
Here.
Vice Chair Warren?
Here.
Commissioner Brady?
Here.
Commissioner Elliott?
Here.
Commissioner Goode?
Here.
Commissioner Lappin?
Here.
Commissioner O'Halloran?
Here.
Everyone is present and accounted for.
And accounted for. Thank you very much. It's a great end of session attendance. Okay, so this is the last meeting for three of us. And Doug Goode, Commissioner Goode, you've been here the longest of us all. Would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance today?
You want me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hallelujah.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Goode. Much appreciated. Very good. Are there any special presentations or proclamations?
There are none.
Excellent. And do we have any oral presentations as well?
There are no
communication, sorry.
There are no public speakers for oral communications, and there are no other speakers on agenda items.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
Excellent. All right. So has everyone had so we're going to go to item 7, approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? I guess with no objection, I'll assume that you have. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Goode and seconded by Commissioner Elliott. Sounds good. And all those in favor of, I guess you have to do a roll call.
Order?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to take roll. Chair Giada?
I will abstain since I was absent from that meeting.
Very good. Vice Chair Warren?
Yes, move to approve or approve.
Commissioner Brady?
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott?
Aye.
Commissioner Goode?
Aye.
Commissioner Lappin?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Halloran?
Aye.
Let the record show motion to approve the minutes of January 19, 2021 regular meeting passes.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, everybody. All right, so item 8, action items. 8A, Parks and Recreation Commission work plan. Shall we dig in? Do we have that on? Here we go. All righty. This is the final meeting, which we will be talking to this work plan, this version of the work plan. Items 1. So does anyone have any comments or updates to items 1 through 4? And I don't have everybody maximized, so I will allow you to just call out Chair Giada or something like that, or hey you. It's quite all right. All right, excellent. Item 5, patrons of Encinitas Parks support. Commissioner, Vice Chair Warren, did you want to talk to that at all? There's some activity.
Yeah. I think, can you hear me? I'm making sure I'm not muted.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, we had an information Zoom on February 8th, and we had about 5 or 6 people join in, where myself, Sandy Shapiro, our president, and Steve, I think it's pronounced Valois.
Valois.
Valois, okay. We talked, introduced them to PEP, kind of explained a little bit. One of the important points we made was it's not just about fundraising, that we participate in city or Parks and Rec events, and then when we promote them as well. So I think it went fairly well. We had, we talked a little bit about social marketing. We might have some people willing to help with that. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's basically it. And former Commissioner Doug Long participated, which I think is a really great thing. And it was really nice to see him back in action.
Well, yeah, thank you. And, I think, old commissioners don't necessarily disappear into the sunset. There's still valuable resources available to be used in various ways. And Doug Long is one of the epitomes, I guess, of volunteerism, at least in the city of Encinitas. He has done pretty much everything over the years that he's been here. So that's fantastic. Did you guys talk about the latest donation for the bocce ball court?
Yeah, we use that as an example of our, it's kind of our most recent project. And then we use that sort of, we explain that as being one of the smaller projects we'll do that will work with city staff. But we opened up the idea of, bigger things like aquatic centers, volleyball courts, and we had some interest. I was happy. PEP had a mailing list with, I don't know, maybe 50 people, and a couple people emailed back and said, "Hey, I want to be part of this." So it was really, I thought it was cool, because we're not out there right now with COVID. So I personally, I was pleased that we got some people interested, and we're expanding, a little bit, but we're still bigger than we were before.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you very much. Are there any other comments or updates with regard to PEP? Staff, is there anything you wanted to add? All right. Seeing that there are none, we'll move on to item 6. If you could help me with scrolling a little bit. I guess not. Thank you. Participate in the Park and Recreation Department's implementation of the Park Master Plan. Specific focus includes, but not limited to, item 1.2.A, Trails Master Plan implementation and connectivity. And I believe we have quite a bit of information and activity here.
Yeah.
Who wants to start us off?
I can start off a little bit. We did we first talked about the master plan and just the literal master plan, which we think is in pretty good shape. And there's, of course, like the big projects is it 92 and 85, the Rancho Santa Fe and El Camino del Norte trails. And the beginning of the work plan, we talked about, well, and we met with Bob Keeley, and we said, well, how does this work? Who decides what trails get prioritized and made? So we learned about that, and then we put together just what we thought would be the best way to support the plan, by looking at the signage, looking at the maps, looking at how we communicate to residents with projects. For example, do people know that there's going to be a new trail going down Rancho Santa Fe? Mm-hmm. So, and that's what our recommendations are based on, sort of the 6 different goals. I'm looking at them now, about signage and maps and working with staff. Staff has been really great. We met with them a few weeks ago to talk about these, and they're on board. I think signage is definitely something and I'm not to speak for staff. You might want to chime in, Director Campbell. But it does sound like we're going to be looking at some new signage for trails. So that could be a good work plan item for the next year. And also e-bikes might be another reason to update signage. Well, even if it's just be careful or safety regulations, but we can get more into e-bikes later. So that's, I don't know if Doug or Courtney, if you have anything you want to add.
No, I feel like it's we have a plan, and it is a little bit serendipity about which one you choose to implement. You know, which new trail, but generally it's sort of self-driven by the development in the community. Where if there's a community development like to be built, and a trail is associated with it, it'll get built. So it's more by default sometimes than by decision. Although the Trails Master Plan was put together as a circulation element in the beginning. So it's always had that feature of how you can get around, make connections. It just has that profile.
Very nice, very nice. Anything else?
No, I will just share or take a lot of the blame when I get really into the maps. And so there are some pretty detailed things that I think staff is probably mad at me about about changing the map. But that's more me just looking and being out there and saying, hey, maybe we can fix this, you know, Jackie Lane trail. But based on our meeting with staff, they're really on board with these things that we're suggesting.
Commissioner Elliott, I think you had a comment.
Yes, I was just going to say that what I was looking at, I thought the maps were the best example of ways in which we can improve. The signage for sure too. A lot of our signage is just old and faded, so it's an opportunity to update that and improve the formatting at the same time, provide more information. We gave good examples of what kind of information we could provide for the signage that would be most useful to the hikers and the folks who use the trail. But by putting in that example from the Park City multi-use paths, I thought that set a nice model that, okay, I can see how that would be much more useful to the folks who I see, for example, on Encinitas Ranch Trail, stopping to look at, diagrams and stuff. And I usually stop and talk to them if they're a little lost. This would be of great value. So I'm very excited about what you guys worked on. And I think that going forward, we've done a good job with trails, physically with expanding the trail system and improving connectivity. But this is going to make the trails more useful. So kudos, I think, good job.
Yeah, I'll just chime in a brief little second. Excuse me, sorry, Commissioner Goad. Go ahead, why don't you go ahead?
Well, I was going to say, are we going to talk about that meeting we had with Outer Spatial? That's coming up on the agenda, right? Or no? Annette?
I was wondering that too.
Because we had a session with the guy from Outer Spatial, which is a replacement for our Trails app for the city, and that's I think is probably the most accessible thing for residents. The signs are good, but in the big picture, they'll look at their phones and look at the maps that they get through the apps, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of old school people like myself who like to get a map and open it up and take a look at what's there. And obviously, you talk about logistics, right? Because if you want detail on a map like that, then you're, having to use a couple people to spread it out. But at the very minimum, everybody's got a phone these days. Everybody has access to the Google or other browser. And so, having a map that identifies a way to find a particular trail in a certain area, I think would be very helpful, as well as having a strictly online accessible kind of a map or wayfinder, I guess you'd say. So it does look like, obviously we're trying to find more trails. We're trying to find ways to do better connectivity. not only within the system, but also outside the system, whether it's Solana Beach or Carlsbad. I think also we have two opportunities that, one was mentioned, there was the maps, and signs were mentioned as well. With signs, I've been all over the world, and we've hiked all over the world, and we've done, multiple backpacking, multi-day hikes all over. And every place has a little different way of doing their signage. And along the way, you kind of pick up ideas. I come back, I have ideas, I share them, then I forget about them, and then they get lost in the dust heap of history. But I think that this might be an opportunity for maybe the next commission, as part of their effort to improve signage, to obviously work with staff, but to maybe compile examples and information of how other places do it, places that are well known for their hiking. You go New Zealand, they have very simple but very logical, well laid out signs. Some of them have maps. You go up to Switzerland or Patagonia or whatever, and I just think that's an opportunity for the next commission for this type of activity. So anyway, great job with the Trails Master Plan, guys. Any other comments or questions? Excellent. Next item, 1.4. Wow, my vision is going bad. 1.4.B, sand volleyball courts. Nothing really new occurred with this except for, I believe, Director Campbell and building construction supervisor, I forget his title, John Adelman of the school district, will be setting a meeting time to get together to talk about common ground, goals, opportunities for doing a joint use project. My vision has always been that the school district, not just the SDA, but the school district needs a better place to play their tournaments and do their practice and their dual matches, I guess you call them, against another team, another school each week or every other week. And so since they have that need, they don't really have a good place for it. They have building funds from bonds. It might be a good opportunity for them to use some of that bond money to help build a site onto our park. We'll provide the place. And it's a good opportunity for a joint use project. So we'll see what's going on there. I look forward to something happening in a more concrete fashion in the next year. And I probably won't be too far from this project, even though I won't be on the commission any longer. So sorry about that, Director Campbell. Any other comments or questions about the sand volleyball courts? Sure, Commissioner Elliott.
Oh, just a word. I'm grateful for where we are. I don't want to lose traction on this because I feel like we're just right on the cusp of making it happen. So I know that I talked briefly with Director Campbell, and I know that the next step, in addition to that meeting, we need to consider what it's going to cost to and what it's going to take to alter the environmental impact report to make the changes necessary if it's
necessary, yeah.
Yeah, if we're going to put that in Encinitas Community Park. And Director Campbell assures me that it will be necessary, so it's okay. I want to be prepared, and I think the next step, after that meeting with Director Alderman, is to get ready to make a presentation to council for this and ask for funds, and it's time to get council buy-in on this. I think we're ready to go, and we're ready to take that step. So I'm excited and hopeful.
Yeah, and I foresee a next step as being to pull potential revenue sources to see, the feasibility of trying to make this maybe not exactly 100% revenue neutral, but maybe a little bit revenue neutral, or even maybe revenue positive, because once it's built, the annual maintenance on it is very de minimis. And so being able to actually generate some revenue from adult leagues or having it rented by clubs is a very real possibility. We've been told that many times by various stakeholders, and it'd probably be nice to see a stakeholder meeting like that come up to get some baseline ideas, not so much as a plan or concrete plan, which also kind of blends into cost recovery, and we have that coming up. But anyway, and then I'm sorry, Commissioner O'Halloran, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great, the progress we've made and a lot of the leadership and activities you have brought to the table, John, and really appreciate all your efforts moving this forward. But I really would like to see us put together I'll say a concrete plan with a timeline and milestones of specifically the things that we believe do need to be done. Who's going to own doing them? If there's money required to execute them, what's the sequence of events? What can be done in parallel? Really put together a plan and execute this year with a goal of, not only having the board understand or present that plan to the board within the next couple of months, but with a goal in the next year to have the thing lined up and break ground. Let's do something.
Excellent.
Chair Giada.
Yes, Director Campbell, there you are.
Yeah, so I have talked to both Chair Giada and I did talk to Commissioner Elliott. So really the first move is, as you know, in Encinitas Community Park, there are no courts that were planned in the master plan. So with that park, when it got approved, there was a MUP, which is major use permit, a CDP, a coastal development permit, and a DR, which is a design review that all went to Planning Commission. I have spoken to Roy Sapau, who is our city planner as well as assistant development services director. So first and foremost is to find out if it can go there, because currently the site that the commission is recommending is scheduled for a teen center. So I have talked to city planner Roy Sapau, and there would have to be likely an amendment to that major use permit, the coastal development permit, and then the design review. Talking to him, there may be some costs, as there may be some additional studies that may have to occur depending on the use. So this doesn't just involve our department, it involves planning, because planning is the one who processes the MUP, the DR, and the CDP. So when I did talk to Chair Giada and Commissioner Elliott, it's likely that the commission will need to make some type of recommendation to City Council in the next month or two to look into that, because that is staff time and it is going to be money, and see what that is, because I take direction from City Council as well as my city manager. So but really that's the first step, commissioners, is that you want to make sure we can put it there, because if you can't put it there, you got to start a new plan. So that's first and foremost. So I just wanted to let you know that that would be the next step.
Excellent. Yes, thank you so much. And I do look forward to that. I think that's very promising. Any other comments, Commissioner O'Halloran?
Well, when's the next city council meeting, and can we prepare that information to present to the council at the next meeting?
I think that's directed to you, Director Campbell.
Yeah, so there had to be, Commissioner O'Halloran, there needs to be some type of formal motion, and it needs to be in a written report. So you would need to make that actual recommendation next Park and Rec Commission meeting, which is in March. And then with that, it can be something, for instance, when the commission recommended a parcel of land, a parcel to purchase, actually the commission wrote a letter, John smiling. But so what they did is when they looked at open space, there was a parcel that the commission recommended. So they actually agreed upon a letter that the chair would pen with myself and make that recommendation to City Council. At that point, City Council, we set up, because it was real estate, we had to go into closed session, but they did authorize us to look at the parcel, get an appraisal. We made an offer. Unfortunately, it was rejected. So that is something that you could do a letter of support and see where that goes first, but you need to have that written in an actual report so that the public knows what you're actually recommending.
Okay. What do we have an example of a report? What makes up the report?
Yes,
that would include our
yes.
recommendation?
Your liaison, Annette Saul, can send you an example.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? I just also want to,
John?
yes, Commissioner Goode.
Yeah, I had a question about the some of the influence from the educational side of the equation. I guess there's a lot of interest at the high school level, and they feed players into the universities. I know UCLA and USC both have full-on scholarship programs for sand volleyball. Is that something that would have an influence here, or is this?
Absolutely, and that's, yeah, actually it's just college scholarships that are primarily driving a lot of the interest from the parents in both indoor and beach volleyball. And since beach volleyball became an Olympic sport, colleges are feeding the Olympic teams, and so colleges have added it as an NCAA sport 5 years ago now, and 4 or 5 years ago. And that means they provide scholarships, and scholarships means a lower financial burden to parents and a way for kids to get into a premier school. And so, there are clubs and high school programs that really are pushing towards higher education, and it's a way for some kids to get there financially, and maybe if their academics aren't quite as stellar as 4.0 student, or is that 5.0 now? Anyway, but absolutely. And so I'm sorry, what was your question about that though?
Well, I'm just trying to see if there's a thread of support, through the educational channels, to say there's an end in sight. We're not just going down to the beach to have some recreation, which isn't a bad thing. It's
right.
Some exercise. But if there's something bigger that can be obtained, like an education at a big university, I think it helps.
Yeah. So there absolutely is, and perhaps in the next month or two, I think you might see some of that support actually manifest itself at one of your meetings.
Cool.
Sorry, not yours, Commissioner Goode, or mine.
Yeah,
but,
right.
One
Our
of the
group is listening.
I know, right? And then you brought up also the recreational aspect to it. Obviously, at the Encinitas Community Park site, if that is built there, that would have recreational opportunities, but also there is an opportunity for us to add a 4th court at Moonlight Beach. The effort really is not as onerous as it has been expressed in the past. I believe it was Director Campbell or her staff had found out that building a court close to that daylighted section of the creek is not an impediment to putting a court there. And so I think it's just a matter of getting some willpower to look at what needs to be done to sort of get that to fit in a way that allows everybody to use the space equally.
Chair Giada, actually Annette has more information on that, and she has found that it's going to be more difficult. Annette would have to speak to that. She has found some things and talked to, so that may be more difficult than thought originally.
Sure. Manager Saul, do you want to talk to that now?
Sure. The biggest issue down there is access for the lifeguard. So we would have to, figure that part out also. And then we would have to do a coastal development permit to go in and make any changes there. And we would also have to get it approved by state parks. So that's quite an ordeal to go through all of that. So it's, not as simple as just putting a court in.
Yeah, understandable, but also by the same token, a volleyball court is not structure. Obviously, access for the lifeguards, that's a logistical obstacle that needs to be overcome. And of course, you do have to do those steps with state park and rec, et cetera. But for a volleyball court, I expect it to be I expect it. I don't know, right? We'll see. But it wouldn't be as onerous as having to build a bathroom or anything else. So no, I appreciate that. And I understand that we've waited a long time already, a couple extra months. It's fairly modest obstacle as far as I think the community is concerned. So I appreciate the extra hard work and the difficulty. But thank you.
I've got one more question on
Sure,
the volleyball
Commissioner
court,
Howard.
but I just wanted to make sure that it's the commission's consensus that we should go forward with the process to see about putting the courts in the location that we're looking at right now.
We already did that, I think, almost a year ago, right? When we did our final report.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why we have our ad hoc committee, and we are, we've been talking to the various players. Obviously, COVID dampened some of our efforts, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah. And so, Manager Saul, should I reach out to you via email, or will you be able to send me it sounds like we previously submitted a report and recommendation for a parcel purchase, and that didn't occur. Would you be able to send me that previous report?
Commissioner Halloran, I'm sorry, that parcel purchase offer, that was regarding open space acquisition. We can bring that up during her report.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else regarding sand volleyball courts?
That's it from me.
All right, guys, thank you so much. 3.1.A, continue to develop the vision of Aquatic Center. And I think what we probably should be doing is perhaps drafting a executive summary of what we've done so far. This is a project that definitely will be a larger project financially and in terms of scope and construction. We've seen some municipalities where they were able to do this from the initial planning to construction in less than 2 years. So I think a lot of this has to do with really defining what our aquatic center should be. And maybe this is where looking at the master plan and reaching out into the community to find out really what it is we want to do as an aquatic center, so that we can kind of really move forward with a more limited scope and hopefully a shorter timeline to completion. It's obviously a very expensive project, and it's a project that requires a lot of annual maintenance in terms of cost and effort. There are stakeholders out there that are willing to provide revenue to help offset maintenance costs. Boys and Girls Club said that obviously no contracts are signed, right? But that they have enough teams to keep it busy all year round. So, I think first of all, we need to find out exactly what it is we want. And that I think will be from an updated master plan survey or community outreach. Anyone have any questions or comments about this? Commissioner Brady or Elliott? Anyone else? Hey, Commissioner Elliott.
No, I would just echo that, perhaps a quick executive summary. We really have a lot of written documents related to, for example, sand volleyball, and we're at the threshold with that, but it might be a worthy goal for the carryover into the next work plan, to start off next year by just pulling together a quick executive summary of the history of the efforts for the Aquatic Center over the past, I've got 4 years, and I know it predated me, by several years. So you just, I know that sometimes it takes a long time for these big projects, but we really don't want to lose sight of this. That's all.
Okay, great.
And I'll just,
sure, Commissioner, sorry, Vice Chair Warren.
I think that idea of bringing together the information at the beginning of the work plan for volleyball and aquatic center is great, so we can just be off and running quickly you know, it keeps momentum going, because, you know, researching and collecting and finding out where we are, that can take a long time. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that kind of derailed some of our momentum, and I think future commissions should probably be aware of that and not fall into the same trap. And that is that every year that passes, the goalposts change a little bit, but I think that's looking too much at detail at the beginning stages, and needs to be kind of ignored, really, like in terms of, okay, how much is that going to cost? Well, it's going to be 3 million. Oh no, wait, it's going to be 6 million. Oh wait, it's going to be 17 million. That is something that is done obviously before true planning of the facility, but the preliminary elements, such as, what is the scope of the Aquatic Center going to be with respect to the community? What do they want? What are they looking for? And best, what's going to fit? And then worrying about, okay, can we afford this? If not, how do we pay for it? That kind of thing. I did feel that we kind of, at some points, we sort of lost sight of that element by going, okay, well, shoot, this is not that much using this type of method of swimming pool. And should it be done or not? And then COVID. We can always say COVID. All right, any other comments or questions about the Aquatic Center? Yes, Commissioner Lappin.
It's less specific about the Aquatic Center per se, but I'm just curious, as we're talking about things like sand volleyball and the Aquatic Center, as space in Encinitas becomes less accessible and available, how do these things transition? Like down the line, I mean, every year that these things don't get done, it seems like the options of where they could get done or how they could get done diminishes. And I'm just curious, and this may be rhetorical, or there might actually be an answer to this, and we can discuss it later, but I'm just curious, like, how do these things evolve as space becomes harder and less accessible to us, especially from a parks perspective?
Sure. And I think Director Campbell can follow up on this as well. But here we are in item 6, and it's participate in the Park and Recreation Department's implementation of the Parks Master Plan. And so what you do as a city is you create this master plan, and that's got a long-term vision to it with long-term goals. And so hopefully you have captured within that master plan the elements that you want to incorporate within your city, and perhaps you create placeholders for some of those things. Obviously, some things are going to come up, and that will provide more challenges. But I think the tool is the master plan. Director Campbell, you wanted to add to that?
Thank you, Chair Gata. Commissioner Lappin, so with the Aquatic Center, it is actually programmed for the Encinitas Community Park. So the Encinitas Community Park had a master plan, and that is where they had slated the Aquatic Center. And as I said, with the master plan for Encinitas Community Park, unless we do something to change it, that was the plan that had been approved by council. So currently that is the place for the Aquatic Center.
So does that mean it's literally just a matter of money at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
For the Aquatic Center, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a matter of what you were saying with the goalpost changing. It's really just nailing down a number and then like executing against said bid or whatever it is.
I think actually it's more about nailing down what we want, the scope of the project.
Okay.
And then trying to find a number, the best number we can fit for that project, and then finding out how we can get the funds for that. So more than likely, we're not going to be getting 100% from the city. So there'll be grants, there'll be sponsorships, there might be a joint use agreement, contracts, for other entities within the city or nearby.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Any other comments, questions? Sure, Commissioner Goad.
Well, it occurs to me that, the master plan will change over time. There's a dynamic aspect to it that some venues, some experiences will be picked up by the private sector. I'm sure, there'll be, some will have to be eliminated. This is going to be something, and once you have a plan, you can always change it. So
right,
that'll happen.
Yeah, so the master plan is very much like our Constitution. It is a living and breathing document that can be amended and has the same kind of weight and significance to the country as the Constitution. No.
Well, you think there's a new sport that comes along that everybody absolutely has to have that we're not aware of at this point, so you've got new things that are developing all the time. It's just, that's
no, absolutely, right? And so obviously new things come up, but also then old things might drop off, and maybe fields are necessary, or conversion of fields, or conversion of courts. And I think if I recall correctly, Director Campbell, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we had a skyline, no, what do you call it? A long-term vision of up to 40 years on the master plan?
No, so actually the master plan has short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals,
Right.
and it went everywhere from 1 year to 10. And to speak to Doug's point, yeah, a lot of times, a master plan is a vision. That's what it is. It's a vision. And at that time in 2016, when the master plan was conducted and approved by City Council, it did represent how the city felt at that time. So Commissioner Goat is right. Yeah, there's things that'll change. 30, 40 years ago, you didn't see skate parks in parks. It just didn't happen. Courtney's got a smile on her face. So, recreation needs will change. The one thing I will say, it was, I feel, my opinion, it was rather late to do a parks master plan in Encinitas. It was done, but we're very built out. So the fact that we didn't have one before 2016, I know we have the recreation element, which is in our general plan.
Mhm.
And of course we had the trails master plan that was worked on, but we didn't really have a true parks master plan in open space. So, Encinitas, we are pretty built out, but yeah, it's a document, and with anything, the point of a document is to be flexible. And of course you want to continue to meet the needs of your community. So yeah, this is a basic document. A lot of times, sometimes you might do an update to a master plan, maybe 10, 15 years out, so that might be something that we plan as a department to do something like that.
Thank you. All right, if there are no more items, no more comments on item 6, we're going to go on to item 7. And this is going to be chock full of fun. Research best practices and policies in regards to e-bikes and trail impacts. Who wants to start this off?
Well, Chair Giada, I did this last meeting. Someone pointed out I skipped the asterisk there under item 6. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, the Parks
Master
Master Plan review and implementation progress. So I just skipped that, you're saying?
I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for the oversight. I appreciate that. So we'll address item 6 asterisk, Parks Master Plan review and implementation progress. I believe that's Brady, Elliott, and O'Halloran. Does anyone have a comment to that? Yes, Commissioner Brady.
I'll jump in. So I'm sorry to say that it's in draft form and I won't be one of the signatories when it's completed, but I would like to see that through. Since it is my last meeting, I would like to share some of my observations with the caveat that I'm speaking for myself and not the entire ad hoc team, since our final document is in draft. Going through the review of the master plan was really enlightening. It highlighted some of the phenomenal things the city and the staff have been able to generate for all the citizens. Many of the items on the master plan have been achieved. My observation is that some of the longer term ones are harder to get to. And it fits in quite a bit with the comments that have been made in our session tonight. It's recognizing that vision and working towards it. And 2 comments I've heard other members of the commission make are, hey, you know what, we really need a project plan to get things done even when they're long term. That we could probably get a lot better at laying things out so that we can actually get to the end game. And the other comment I heard from commissioners tonight is, hey, we need to swing back around with city council and make sure they're tied off on some of these bigger items, right? It's clear that sand volleyball courts are called for in the master plan. We know the community wants them. There's no doubt at all. But I sort of feel like maybe we haven't had that robust conversation with city council to make sure they're behind us, and rightfully so that they feel it's enough of a priority to ask staff to prioritize it as well. I think the Aquatic Center falls in that same boat. I think overall, there's just a tremendous amount we have to be proud of. And what we're talking about now is really working on the longer, tougher items like open space, aquatic centers, sand volleyball courts. I'll leave it at that.
Excellent, excellent. Anyone else want to talk to this item? All right. Sorry, I saw Commissioner Elliott's hand first.
Okay.
Commissioner Goad, you next.
No, just briefly, I wanted to express gratitude for Commissioner Brady for really leading us through this. And I agreed with everything she said. And also, my takeaway as we approach another year, evidently, if as Director Campbell said, we're probably going to have this as our guideline through 2026, then I think it's really important that incoming members and new members to the commission take a serious look at this document and take it to heart. Yeah, you don't have to maybe read all 348 pages, but just be familiar with the main themes. And we did draft a report, and I'll be happy to continue to work on that. I'd like to maybe introduce that. I don't know if it's appropriate in the first meeting of the coming year, but definitely the second meeting after new commissioners have come on board and had a chance to look at what we're doing and get boots on the ground and okay, how do we approach this? Because I don't know how else we can get across how important it is to come up with a methodology for the longer term goals. We've done an incredible job on all the short term goals, medium term goals. I think that's basically what we need is a fresh approach for the longer term goals.
And who knows, maybe PEP might be something that can help with that.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, Commissioner Goad, you're next. Sorry.
Yeah, what occurs to me is that as we go through this evolution or the process of winding out the master plan, and resources are tight, you sort of have there's a chance, or there's a situation where maybe the lowest common denominator approach will have to be sorted out by the commission and the council. Who's going to get served the most by a project that you undertake. The Trails Master Plan serves a lot of people. That's a great thing. Bikeways, it's a good thing. You serve a lot of people. So we'd like to have as many choices as we can, but sometimes our resources are limited, and we have to evolve the decision making to match what we have available. So these are things to keep in mind as you unwind a long-term plan. That's another reason it has to be debated and looked at and massaged as you go forward.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Goad. And I will disagree with you in one aspect, and that is resources are always limited.
Yeah.
Not just sometimes.
No
Commissioner Halloran, please.
I just wanted to weigh in on the report and offer my gratitude and appreciation for Commissioner Brady's work in putting that report together and helping us stay focused on doing our assessment of the plan. I'm not sure about the procedural side of presenting that plan or submitting that plan as part of this meeting, but I might propose that we actually do submit it or present it in some form in the first meeting with new commissioners next time, and maybe not have an exhaustive discussion about it, but have that as homework to all the new commissioners to go and look at our assessment, what we've done, and maybe compare it to the larger plan if they have time, and then have a deeper discussion the following meeting.
Nice. I think that's something to look forward to at the next commission meeting. Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments about that review and implementation progress? So, I mean, exactly, what we've been talking about, some of the items under item 6 and perhaps future ad hoc efforts, that review and update progress review as well. that will help inform, how we approach some of those other projects, right? And so, whether it requires some further outreach or just saying, hey, these boxes are checked off, we really need to start paying attention to these other ones. So I look forward to seeing how you guys approach that. All right. Any other questions or comments on that? Item 6, asterisk. Great. We'll go on now to item 7, the best practices and policies in regards to e-bikes and trail impacts. And who wants to start this off?
David.
Okay, I do.
Vice Chair Warren then. Thank you.
Okay. And so we clearly we did lots of research. We started off saying, let's look at what the other cities are doing locally and some cities near, that are similar to us, like the ones in Colorado. And we had all this research, and we spent a lot of time putting it together into this report because we didn't, we wanted to share it to as many people as we could. And of course, as we've discussed, the education came out as a really, really important thing to do, especially with kids. We've talked to staff about this. And so rather than just echo the importance of education, we got in and we tried to be a little bit specific and say, well, what if we do this? What if we reach out to local bike shops? So let's take our signage and let's have more speed limits or slow down signs. So we did talk to staff about these recommendations also. And as I'm sure Director Campbell will tell you, they're working on a lot of the same things, these exact things in some cases. Sort of the bigger item is restricting e-bikes. We don't, or I will speak for myself, I don't think that is something we want to do right now. But we have to pay attention, and we have to see how things go if e-bikes become even more popular with kids. That could change. There have not been any serious incidents on the trails. So the roads are definitely the more dangerous area, and with cyclovia, and I was in El Camino Bike Shop taking my bike in, and I saw the poster that I assume our department, they said they were going to send out posters, and it kind of had the different classes, and I thought that was a good step. But yeah, I think that's what I have really. I mean, there's a lot to talk about really. So if anyone has any questions or anything, please let us know.
Anyone else want to make a comment or question? Now, I know that you have a report and 2 recommendations. Are you submitting these to the commission?
I think we would rather just have them open for discussion. They are broken into kind of an education and communication section, which is more simple. They were broken up that way because section 2 is about restrictions, and we thought if we ever do go in that route, we want to keep that separate because that could be something that we do have to vote on, and possibly make a recommendation to City Council. But from my understanding, it seems like the staff is on board with a lot of these already. So I don't see us having to formally recommend them.
Okay, Director Campbell, then Goad, and then Lappin.
So first of all, I really just wanted to commend both the group that worked on the trails and the group that worked on e-bikes. They sat down with us and we talked, and it was funny when Commissioner Warren had some ideas. I was like, guess what? We're doing this one and we're doing this one and we're doing, so it was really it wasn't just kind of cool. It was very cool to see that the commission had so many of the same ideas and that staff has noticed some of the same deficiencies or some of the things we do. And I think that was just really great. And I think Chair Giada, you always have your kind of pre-meeting. And I think I mentioned how wonderful it was to see that recommendations from the commission are exactly what staff is thinking. And also the commission was able to look at a couple other different aspects and bring those to our attention. But it was really nice that everyone was really on the same page, recognizing that there's more we can do and we can do better. And we're all on board with that. So I just wanted to mention with that because, they're basically, those were two recommendations as far as with the trails and with the e-bikes on those things. And it was just really nice to see how well thought out it was with both of those subcommittees that did that. And just so much agreement on what they found and what we've been researching. So, just wanted to make a comment on that. And one of the things that the group, we did talk about, anytime you look to restrict or possibly not allow something, it really does need to be a big discussion. We want to make sure the community is extremely aware that that's going on. Commissioner Warren actually listened into a trails meeting in San Marcos where they specifically addressed e-bikes and they had something like 50 comments. So we would want to make sure that we do really good outreach to our community so they know what's going on.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Goad.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you to David because he really introduced some technology into the process that we hadn't seen before. And it was a great way to sort of accumulate ideas. But however, I would say that one of the things that we don't really make a distinction on in the report is the difference between a regular bike and an e-bike in terms of how it brakes. And when you come into a situation, how do you react to that situation if you're on an e-bike versus a regular bike? Whereas a regular bike will, through inertia, apply the brakes right away as soon as you stop pedaling. Whereas an e-bike, it's going to coast and it's going to keep going. So there's a difference in the way that interacts in given situations. And we need to be really aware of that. And we're fairly new to it as a city. So there, as an outgoing commissioner, I'm hopeful that this evaluation will continue and that we want to be somewhat critical of new technology. I'm not sure that it's something we want to accept hands down all the time. We had some issues with regular e-bikes in the beginning, but I think the users were open to change and trying to integrate their usage along with other people amicably. And so they began to wear helmets. They got bells on their bikes, and that was an accommodation that they made to some of the slower users. Whereas what I'm saying now is that the e-bikes don't brake the same way that a regular bike does. So they're more of a transportation item where they coast easier, whereas the recreation item is the regular old-fashioned bike that gives you exercise. And I think that's the distinction that the policies will have to make in the future. The other thing I was going to say is I really enjoyed the write-ups about Boulder, Durango, Park City. These are experienced towns. I think Boulder they've got an Olympic training center there. I mean, they do a lot of stuff with road bikes. I mean, it's a very, very active community. And I would pay a lot of attention to those experienced communities and how they go about making their trail resources available. And what kind of technology are they going to make available to them? It's a tough decision for San Marcos because they're fairly new to the discussion. I think from what I gathered from the Trails Advisory Committee, they seem to be a little biased towards e-bikes. I wasn't really feeling that they were neutral. You just didn't seem. They just kind of kicked the can down the road, didn't really make any decisions, any real revelations. So I'm in favor of tried and true practice, what's showed to be that works in the community, and I think that's from those Colorado cities, and Park City would be a good example. Some of the other things is we did get a lot of discussion. I talked to some a planner, an ex-city planner from the city of Escondido, and he said signage was important. I also talked to one of the assistant directors at the San Marcos, and he was saying, it's going to take some decision making. I also talked to the president of the town council in Elfin Forest and some of the interactions she's had with e-bikes, and she's having a tough time. And I'm sure if you guys have been watching next door, you've noticed that there are comments coming out. Now, they're not going to say how great the e-bike operators were. They're going to complain if there was some sort of friction or interaction that was unpleasant for them. The other thing I was able to talk to was the owner of a Twin Oaks Valley Equestrian Center. She also is the president of the Twin Oaks Valley Equestrian Association, and they're concerned about e-bikes as far as interacting, because of the speed differentials between horses, walkers, and electric bikes. So just FYI.
Okay, great. And so regarding your extra criterion regarding e-bike evaluation or assessment, braking distance, sure. I mean, when you look at cars, especially, if they're going to be used on a racetrack or something, braking distance is very important. So maybe that's an element that could be added. Commissioner Lappin, I think you had a question.
I was just going to add, when you were asking about kind of where does that recommendation go? Does it become something submitted to the commission? And I think for me personally, at least, and I'll caveat it with my own opinion, but I think there's so much to learn about e-bikes, about the different classes, about what differentiates them. For example, we have a cargo bike, which with my kids on it weighs more than I do. And it's a very different riding experience than riding a traditional road bike. And I don't think we want to get into the place where we're solving problems that don't yet exist, but we want to at least have a foundation of what e-bikes, what they are, what other cities are doing, how they're doing it, how they're measuring the success of the policies they're implementing. And I personally believe that once kids are back, the older kids are back in school, e-bikes are going to become a much bigger part of the conversation than they probably are currently. We know personally a number of young teenagers who have gotten e-bikes as a means of getting to and from school. I see them like congregated. So I think that this is going to become a bigger issue as commutes start to return back to some degree of normal. And using trails and parks as a part of those commutes will probably become a bigger portion of where we're seeing people move. So I think it's just a good starting and baseline for us to all be prepared. So as things continue to shift and they become more ubiquitous within the community, we're in a good place to figure out what our options are to make sure people are being safe. And that's all.
All right, Commissioner Elliott, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick, I think this was a wonderful exploration, and I want to thank and applaud Commissioner Warren, Vice Chair Warren. And I agree with Courtney. This is going to be a bigger question, and it's growing rapidly as the number of e-bikes on the roads and trails multiply. So I guess I just have a real quick question. When we come to the end of this report, we're looking like on section 1 and 2, the goals. And it seems to me like the goals in section 1, at least the second one, you can't really update signage until you figure out what the policy is to put on the signs. Right. So it all hinges on those last 3 lines of the report. And my question is, who and how will those decisions be made? Is it our job as a commission? Is it the job of the department? Is it the job of the city council? What's our proper role, and how can we best contribute to the conversation and help Encinitas get a policy in place that is fair and reflects the will of the population?
Director Campbell, do you want to address that?
Well, so with some of their recommendations, obviously they said there's some things that are operational within that report, like updating signage. That's operational, and that's something like I said, the department is good. If at some point you do look at wanting to change the rules or change bike usage on trails, that would be something that would go through city council, because that's a policy decision. So as you know, city council are our policy and decision makers. The department obviously upholds policies, but what the department does is we do day-to-day operations. So we handle things such as signage and obviously take care of all our trails, programs, things like that. So there's an operational side and a policy side. And what commissions do is make recommendations to city council on policy. I hope that helps.
That helped enormously. And what that does to me, what that says to me is that we have an obligation to our community to be the eyes and ears here and to help craft a fair and effective policy out of this and make recommendations to the council. And I think it's going to be very important, and it's going to come up very fast. And I'm sure it will be a major bullet point on our next our next work plan.
Yeah, I think one thing that sometimes was easy to lose sight of, especially in this era of COVID, is that the commission is sort of the eyes and ears for staff and council, and sometimes we are the conduit of information to the community. So, we should be trading information in both directions. Vice Chair Warren.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Elliott, I think you described our work plan, what we did as an exploration. I think that's a great word. And I think that the next step is to open it up, like Director Campbell said. We definitely do want public input. So I have a question. If we wanted to have to hear residents' opinions, what would be the best way to do that? And would we have to necessarily have some motion set forth to do that, or can we just invite? That's similar to what San Marcos did. They had people speak at their Trails Advisory Committee, but I assume at some point they're going to be speaking at the commission too. So is there a process to bring in public input without us actually reviewing a specific e-bike restriction or anything?
Right, and I'm sure Director Campbell is going to chime in here in just a sec. But yeah, I think we can anticipate there would be a lot of interest in this, and I think it would probably have to be a standalone kind of effort, whether it's a workshop or whatever. But Director Campbell, why don't you take that away?
Thank you, Chair Giada. So the biggest thing is for any commissions or any city council, it's just making sure the community knows what you're doing. So for instance, if there is going to be any discussion on that, obviously as a department, we have contacts for people in San Diego Bike Coalition, different bike groups. So, you might want to let them know. Obviously, all of the agendas are posted on the website. They're posted several days ahead of time, so it's transparency so that people know. So if you were specifically doing that, if the commission, if we look at something, there might be a possible way to do a workshop that talks about this too. Because one thing, I'll give you an example. For instance, we have a SCORE group that are athletic field users. They're the youth sports groups, and they meet a couple times a year, and it's to get different input and talk to them. So it might be possibility of doing some type of, first a community workshop with the bike groups, just to start talking to everybody. Because the nice thing is, if you involve people at the beginning, it's a lot better to have those conversations. Also, it's great because you can flesh out sometimes some of their concerns, and then you can work towards resolutions so that by the time you get to a meeting, it's usually pretty harmonious. So there's several different things that we could do. But obviously, part of what you folks do is that's why we follow the same guidelines the city council does, is we specifically have reports and things like that that go up and are published so that anyone in the community can know what we're doing.
Thank you. Did you have anything further, Vice Chair Warren?
Well, I just think that involving the Traffic and Public Safety Commission might be a good idea, because we, e-bikes on the roads, it's such a big issue, and to have people come speak specifically about trails, that's good. And there's a lot of trail users that are really passionate about that, but I think we could sort of combine resources a little bit. And we talked about doing that this time around a little bit, but decided against it. But I think it might be, knowing now that, we're going to make this a bigger thing and definitely reach out to the public. I think that's a good idea. And the last thing I'll say, if we did have a strong feeling about, say, class 1 only on trails, that would be in our recommendations, but it's really not, as far as our ad hoc committee is collectively opinionated. Yeah.
Great, Commissioner Goode.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I know we're having this discussion about e-bikes on trails, but it does sound like there's a decision about making a distinction between transportation and recreation. And I think once we get through this COVID thing, there's going to be a lot of people using e-bikes for shorter commutes around town. Work plans, work methodologies are going to change a lot. I think a lot of people are going to still work from home even after the COVID thing's over. So they might want to use a more abbreviated transportation than an automobile. It pollutes as much as it does with carbon and so on. So I'm thinking that something towards electric bike is going to be a big deal. And if it's transportation, how much are we willing to let go of that in the parks end of it? The recreational side versus turning it over to the transportation side at the Traffic Commission. This just a question. I don't have to have an answer right now.
Okay. Director Campbell, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just, and I had spoke to Commissioner Warren about this. I mean, obviously the Park and Rec Commission oversees park and recreation facilities. Bike lanes, our streets are not ours. As Commissioner Goode said, the roads are not ours. So if there's an effort to talk about that, yes, definitely involving traffic and public safety would be a must, because that's an area that's not inside my purview, nor really the purview of Park and Rec Commission. That's why I know that the Park and Rec Commission really looked at trails, because that is our usage. I mean, we obviously do have trails of many different kinds, but some are sidewalks. So yeah, I think that maybe a concerted effort, just like how Ciclovia was born was through the Environmental Commission and Traffic and Public Safety. It's not unusual to work with another commission. Exactly. And to have crossover. So it would be a great idea.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Vice Chair Warren.
I think this is the last thing I'll think of saying, but in the work plan moving forward, I don't have the perfect name for it, but something about trail sharing or multi-use. I think focusing on the e-bikes it's too heated, and I would prefer if we kind of had more general goals and we looked at horses and bikes and trails, not to open it up to change any of those rules, but I think that just might be a better way to look at it. Because I've noticed, I mean, it's just such a hot topic with e-bikes, and right. Especially if we open it up to traffic and public safety, there might be a better way to look at our overall goals than just
Commissioner Elliott. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think we go back to the traditional language and say, what is going to be our, we need new guidelines for our multimodal trails. And then we have some trails that are smaller and are not multimodal. But this is maybe, clearly defining which trails are multimodal and getting some policies set in place for those. I think that would be great.
Yeah, the thing about e-bikes is that there are different classes. They can maintain a certain speed with momentum, right? So you have that braking distance as well as the handling. There is a gap, I think, in terms of education. This is a relatively new phenomenon. I live not far from the beach, and I see kids riding up and down my street, no helmets, going pretty doggone fast with surfboards, or sometimes just with their, whatever they're carrying with them. And they're young too, and you go, I think they're supposed to be wearing a helmet. So obviously, I think education is a key part of it. I think trying to find a general, universal language to apply to trails is a worthy goal, but I think sometimes, so for example, speed limit, right? Not faster than 15 miles an hour, let's say. We don't have too many radar guns along the trails or whatever. And so that sounds good, not really enforceable. And maybe that's a way, that we can have set up an enforcement to check, if there's an issue. But I think maybe going by class might help. Have you guys thought about going to Portland, looking at Portland at all, talking to them? Vice Chair Warren.
I think Nick Buck mentioned Portland, or maybe I'm thinking of where we Parks and Rec made some trail sign updates on the Cardiff Rail Trail, and they were inspired, I believe, by some of the signage up in Portland. But it wasn't part of our study. But we'll take a look at that, or I will.
Yeah, and the reason I bring up Portland is because it's such a heavily bike intensive city, right? So I'm sure they're having to figure out ways to coordinate both e-bikes and traditional bikes. And I think I saw a comment in in the report somewhere about, where does this leave electric scooters and other types of transportation too? So, in San Diego by Mission Bay, a couple years ago, 3 years ago, they introduced scooters, electric scooters, and there was a flurry of accidents and things like that and complaints. And so going back to look at what the city did with respect to scooters, at least in that area, which tend to be a bit crowded and mixed use with pedestrians as well as regular bicycles, and then e-scooters at that time. What else? That's it. And regarding the report, it's a wonderful report. I think you guys have done a lot of work on it. I think it's well presented. It's well formatted. If you don't do it this meeting, I really would love to see that presented to the commission, providing it as a resource to not only staff, but also for those who are interested and maybe even traffic and safety. Any other comments on this topic before we go on? All righty, going once, going twice. Thank you guys very much. That was a lot of work and it was well presented. Appreciate that. Item 8, review cost recovery and pricing policy as identified in 2015 Service Financial Sustainability Implementation Plan. Who wants to talk to that at all?
Travis.
All right. Manager Carlin, did you want to talk to it?
Well, I can, but I was hoping to hear some of the commissioners talk to just the process that we went through and see what they thought. Because we did meet as an ad hoc a little over a week ago and talked about a draft policy. I don't know if any of them want to weigh in before I speak.
Okay, the Vice Chair Warren, sure.
We did indeed meet Manager, sorry, I apologize. He provided a draft policy for cost recovery, and it's been based on some of the things we worked on before. I was on the cost recovery committee in 2020, and it is it's very detailed. They're very good at tracking expenses. They're going by this pyramid where the people who use the programs the most those are the programs that are most subsidized. It's really well laid out. I don't believe any of us had any issues with it. It does not include field allocation, which is, I think, way more complicated. And Travis will speak to this, but we are basically on track currently with the goals for cost recovery. So that's sort of my summary.
Okay, yeah, Commissioner Goad, please.
Yeah, I was now I recall. I really thought it was kind of like what Travis had come up with, and the way they nurture the programs is if there's a financial problem or there's a way that they can help stimulate demand for the programs. It's like an incubator for business. It's a very neat little program that helps stimulate economically these programs, and they just don't let them languish. They go to work on it. So it's a way to observe results and then tweak whatever they need to get that demand up. And a lot of times, it's surprising what they're able to accomplish. So it was really a tremendous revelation for me about how this cost recovery works. It made it real. So thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Vice Chair Warren.
just add that it includes language to ensure that the rates stay competitive, and I think it's every 6 months that they get reviewed. But I think it's good that it has that, so it's nothing that's really fixed.
Yeah, you know, I've been talking to other people in other cities, and this kind of topic comes up. And you know, with COVID, it's interesting. It kind of has a parallel path that they conduct within their own city, and that is they go on to the usual planning and perhaps cost of living increases or whatever decreases or increases that they normally would have, and then alongside to that, they have their reaction to the COVID situation. So for many cities, like they're waiving, I don't know, business license fees, or they're maintaining a certain level, you know, up you know, from 2 years ago or something, whatever it happens to be. And I don't know if that's something that needs to be codified, but you know, I think that applies definitely to this effort. We have a couple major projects, as we talked about earlier, that are on the horizon: sand volleyball facility and the Aquatic Center, and those will require their own pricing structures, I think. I foresee us charging for both of those, but obviously City Council and staff will make that decision at some point. So I don't know if that's something you put into your policy as a placeholder, or you just deal with it when the time arises. But it's just something that'll be interesting. And I don't think it would fall under the same umbrella as like our field use policy either. What are your thoughts, anyone? Or just
I can speak to that, Commissioner Guiata. So those are special circumstances that come up all the time within Parks and Recreation, and dependent on what's going on in the world. The things that, as an example, that I can explain to you that we did this past year is when we had a lot of our brick and mortar businesses that weren't able to actually operate within their facilities that they had because of COVID and because of the COVID guidelines that restricted that. What we did is we did a temporary commercial use permit where we looked at different areas of our parks that we wouldn't necessarily use for commercial use, and we actually came up with a temporary policy regarding commercial use out in our parks, where we waived those fees for those brick and mortar businesses, and there were certain rules that were attached to that. So we, when crises come up like this, oftentimes we are given the latitude to come up with special policies, and they're either blessed by the department director or the city manager, or sometimes city council. But those are things that we're used to doing, but wouldn't typically be a part of a normal policy.
Yeah. All right. Well, excellent. Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions about cost recovery and pricing? All right. Going once, going twice. So traditionally what we do is we present to council, sort of interesting, the outcomes of our work plan. And then the new commission will present also their new work plan. And it looks like we have this scheduled for June 1st. So we have that coming up on the short term horizon. Any other comments or questions regarding that or any part of the work plan? Excellent. Next, please. I think we'll go on to agenda item 9, and it'll be director's reports. If I could.
Thank you, Chair Guiata. So I will, of course, have Annette go ahead and update you on park projects, and Travis update you on recreation. But one of the things that Chair Guiata had talked about was kind of like sort of an end of the year wrap up, and Travis will kind of let you know where our registration numbers ended. But, as you know, 2020 was a rough year. We went into COVID in March of 2020. Our community and senior center is still shut down, still has not opened yet. Obviously, one of our big revenue generators and one of the areas where we service the most people was our summer programs. And unfortunately, we were not able to do really any summer programs except for Seaside Day Camp. And of course, that had to be limited because there were certain county health regulations in order. So we also didn't do any special events except Cyclovia made it under the wire in January of 2020. But there was no movies, there was no concerts, there was no parade, which we know is the biggest one where our Park and Rec Commission gets to ride in that. So, it was a rough year for all of us, very rough year for staff because, this is what they love. So it was really, really difficult for recreation staff. I will say, one really bright shining light was our senior nutrition program. And that program literally doubled. We would always have about 40 to 50 folks come to lunch. Of course, we couldn't do it in person. So staff really transitioned to where people could pick up meals. And then also we did delivery because there was some folks that were really not wanting to leave their house. So we went to up to over 100 meals a day. And I will say that staff did a lot of creative things to kind of enhance the lives of our seniors. We had everything from Girl Scouts writing handwritten notes to put in their lunch bags because of, usually we had fun at holidays and celebrate things. They were able to put different puzzles or just some type of giveaway in the lunch bags that really enlightened people's lives. And we actually received a lot of letters, handwritten, of course, from seniors, really expressing how much they appreciated that. Another thing that recreation staff did was they really transitioned from having the in-person classes to the Zoom classes. And believe it or not, we actually have quite a few seniors that are really enjoying this and they've asked that they continue. So I really think what'll happen is we'll start to do like a hybrid programming where I know folks are getting ready to come back. But I think there's folks that do enjoy this and our instructors really adapted. So kudos to them because it's very different teaching in person than it is online. So that's completely fantastic. One area that we actually really saw an increase was our parks, beaches, and trails. And I think a lot of you have said that. I think there's so much use because really that was the only thing that we were allowed to do. I mean, obviously we had certain things closed at first and we know how that went over. But that was really what remained open. So I see Elizabeth kind of smiling, but yeah, it was rough. I will say staff took a beating on a lot of things. I really give a lot of credit. I mean, they were called many different names and things like that. And I understand, people were very frustrated and we were always trying to follow what's the new COVID rule here and what do we do now and what can open. But park staff really worked hard. I mean, it was a lot because obviously with more use, there's everything, more trash, there's, just more maintenance. So parks saw an uptick. I mean, I got to tell you, the park supervisors and Annette didn't miss a beat on being busy. I mean, they really didn't. We still see that. But one of the things that Travis's staff really did was, we didn't have contract folks working for us. So the full-time staff really adjusted and they started doing everything. I mean, they did everything that contract staff did plus their jobs. So it was definitely an interesting year. Obviously, you folks know we have cultural arts, and that was really hard for Jim and his staff. It was like no more noon concerts, no more other concerts. We had started Encinitas Art Night, which was a huge hit. Couldn't do that. So we are following closely what the county is going to let us do. We've had some good news. Travis, I call Travis my county hotline person. He's great. He's got some contacts, and whenever I have a question, he gets right on it. And I will say the county has been absolutely fantastic with getting back to us in an extremely timely manner. But they're saying things are looking better. They're looking at how to reopen safely. So that's great. Obviously, huge, bright, shining light of this year is Olympus Park started construction. Run into a couple hiccups with COVID and some rain days, but almost done. And I will say, Commissioner Brady, that's probably your parting gift for this commission, because as we all know, Commissioner Brady lives very close to that park. And I did go over there the other day. I attended one of the construction meetings. The park looks amazing. I can't wait to get you folks in there, but I'm in awe. And I'm a little worried that it's now set the expectation for parks because, unfortunately, the last park that gets built, is always has the cool stuff. So that was really the bright light. But, really another bright light was the fact that staff came together. Crystal's staff, who she manages admin, they stepped in to help out with anything. I mean, literally. And they kept everyone on track, and they kept everything in budget because, you know, we started out, all of a sudden we're like, holy cow, we don't have revenue coming in. So now we've got to adjust our expenditures. So Crystal's staff really helped keep everyone on track. And when I told her, I'm like, what do we do? We're going to be short. And how do we make this up? She was right there, ready to go. You know, so it was a tumultuous year. I'm really hoping that this next year, you know, Travis and I have talked, we're looking at some modified summer programming and with Larry Giles and beach programs. So we're hoping, I mean, the main thing is everyone still has to stay vigilant, and we still have to take care of ourselves and one another, because that's part of it too. But we are looking forward to having a better year this year. But, you know, so kind of wrap up, it was parks, trails, beaches, busier than ever. You know, saw record crowds in different areas, lots of use, but with lots of use sometimes comes behavior that isn't necessarily great. You know, as far as recreation, they really pivoted, they transitioned, and I think, you know, we're going to come out of this an even better department and a better division for what they've done. So I'm really excited, but I just appreciate how everyone supported each other. I know, I just want to say in my report, you know, we've appreciated your support. I think it was, you know, between Chair Giada and Commissioner Elliott, you're our eyes and our ears, you're our advocates, you're out there. I mean, that's why you're appointed, is to, you know, help make our community better and to let us know what we're doing good and what we can improve on. And, you know, so for me, what I just wanted to say is that I know that we've got 3 commissioners that are terming out. And they were with me when I started, because I can't believe it's coming up on 5 years since I've been here in July. So these were my first commissioners that I was introduced to, and the rest of you came on. And, you know, again, you know, Elizabeth Brady, you are so bright and you are so motivated and so directed. And I just loved your enthusiasm when you were chair. You ran a great meeting. Elizabeth is good about keeping everything in order and just keeping things moving. And, you know, I'm happy that Olympus Park is almost done. And I consider that like your parting gift. What a great thing that you helped the community design this, get it built. Good news is no general fund money for that park. How amazing. And that land was deeded. So Elizabeth, from the bottom of my heart, you were so welcoming when I came. And you were so dedicated to this commission. So I just want to say that I'm going to miss you. And I know you'll be around. And I just know it. And I know you'll be there. And we're going to try our hardest to do a grand opening at that park where people can come. We're really, really trying. Commissioner Goad, you know, the Trails Master. You know, I learned so much from you. You always took the time to explain things to me. And you always took the time to explain history to me. You know, and I know you've been on the commission for a really long time. I know that you're one of our horse enthusiasts. You know, you would always tell me about your horses. And I really like the fact that you were able to bring that to the commission, because I don't think really anyone else had horses, you know? So I think that was so important. But, you know, you've dedicated so much time to this commission. Plus you were with the County of San Diego. You're with Encinitas Trails Coalition. I think you were you worked with like San Diego Riders. I remember all the organizations. I mean, you really, you know, you just take pride in your community and you love your community, and it shows, and it came through. And so I just appreciate everything that you've taught me and all the knowledge that you've imparted on me, and just know that it is not lost. And again, I know, Doug, you are never far away either.
Yeah. Phone call.
And Chair, oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Phone call.
Okay. And yeah, Chair Giada, you know, you're the idea man. Let me just tell you, you've got ideas all the time. You do. It's always like John will call up, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And I think I want to say John's been chair a couple times since I have been director. But again, John, too, you know, the knowledge that you have of this commission, this city, you know, you were a representative on the Coastal Mobility and Livability Working Group. I know you've worked closely with your Leucadia Town Council, Leucadia 101. You know, and it's just nice to have a great representation of commissioners from the different areas. But, you know, John, you've been huge with EcoFest. You know, we still have an MOU with you to partner on that future event. And I know that that's something that will probably continue with other events as well, you know, into that. but you definitely, John, I mean, you've showed, you've definitely, you're Mr. Parks and Rec Commission. I mean, you really are. You know, Doug Long was probably that before you, and then you kind of took that role. But again, John, you know, and you know so much about other things in the city. So your knowledge of just how the city works and other commissions and history has been wonderful, and you've imparted that on our staff, and you've been fun to work with. You make some hilarious comments. Gotta tell you, you make me laugh. You're a December baby like me, so you know we both have a little bit of the same personality. But truly, John, I just thank you for your service, and I kind of feel like I'm getting, you know, I'm just getting a little emotional, but I do. I just wanted to say thank you, and of course, a big thank you to the rest of the commission, because you guys are all wonderful. I do want to say tonight, if they're watching, welcome Brad Hansen, Ross Ritter, and Steve Winters. They're your new commissioners. So I think Ross Ritter told me he'd be watching tonight. So very excited to have you on board. But, you know, from the bottom of my heart, I please don't be strangers. I don't expect that. Always call whatever you need when you want to say hi, whenever you talk. But just understand you've made a huge impression on this commission and the city, and be proud of what you did. And hey, listen, if after 3 years y'all want to come back. So that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Well, thank you, Director Campbell. If I knew people were watching, I would have combed my hair. It's probably more true than it's not. Anyway, well, thank you very much, Director Campbell. And I think we'll probably save our comments for Commissioner's Corner. Manager Saul, Parks Department. Gosh, I can't even talk.
Yeah. Yes, hi, Ness Saul, Park Operations Manager. Just a couple things to update you on. Olympus Park, I hope maybe some of you have driven by, but it's looking really good. All the playground equipment is installed. The zip line is up. It looks really cool. The shade structures are all installed. We're just waiting on the rubber safety surfacing in all the play areas. The dog park is going to get finished up. The sport court surfacing, a little bit more landscaping, and some turf installation. So we're on schedule for end of March, early April. And that's our goal. I think we'll probably make that goal. And like Jennifer said, hopefully we can have some type of grand opening. That would be really great. Another update, Beacons Beach. The landscape restoration plan was approved at Planning Commission last week, so that's really exciting. We hope to start that work in the fall. So hopefully in the fall, we'll have plants going in and start restoring that bluff. And it's going to be a really great project. I know we've been working towards that for a while now. And the Planning Commission had a lot of very nice things to say about the trail work and everything that we've done out there. So it was nice to hear. Some other things we've done, the Grandview Beach access, we completed the light cage replacement. We're working on ordering the shade structures for the bocce court. And hopefully that will be installed end of April, early May, which should hopefully align for them to actually be used. We've also replaced the basketball hoops and the backboards at Glen Park. We're working on some tree trimming and some landscape improvements at the Community Senior Center. So hopefully when that's ready to open, everything will look perfect. And we had a mainline break repair at Ecke Sports Park and some trail fence repairs along Lone Jack Road and Bob Booker Trail. And then I just wanted to go back to what Commissioner O'Halloran was asking about, that example of the letter for the open space parcel. I will send that to you. So you have that as well as the volleyball report.
Thank you.
I will get that to you.
Me too.
And that's all I think. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Lappin. I saw your hand first.
Yes, thank you. Manager Saul, we've been spending a lot of time at Glen Park lately, and it looks like there's some kind of leak that they're trying to identify up at the top part of the park. It's not the county, I mean, it's not the Parks and Rec team, it's the San Dieguito Water, but I didn't know if you had any updates about what was going on and when they thought that work would be completed.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure that out for a while. We've determined that it's no irrigation is in the park. There's nothing, you know, facility wise. So San Diego is out testing the water. They think maybe it's coming from maybe a pool or someone else's water line that had a high chlorine content. So they're still trying to figure that out. Yeah, I don't have an update on that. That was the last I heard about it last week.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Elliott.
Oh, I was just gonna, Annette, please send me the example for drafting the sand volleyball thing too. When you send it to Dan, send it to me. And I've got all the background from prior, like our prior report from last year and all that stuff. But if you've got a format that you want us to follow for that, then yeah, I'd love to see it. That's all.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Manager Saul, regarding Olympus Park, I got a phone call from one of the neighbors, and maybe they weren't up to speed on the latest configuration of the park. But what equipment is going up near the top of the park that looks like perhaps playground equipment?
Yeah, the upper part of the park has a smaller kind of tot lot playground. There's a little spinner and some little swings. It's a smaller play area.
Has that element been part of the park design from the beginning, or was that added sometime in the middle? Do you remember?
It's always been a part of the park, yeah.
Okay. All right. I looked at what plans I had showed it there, and I just I wasn't quite I didn't have the history of that at the top of my head. So I do appreciate your feedback here. And then with respect to open space, Commissioner Brady had found a potential site, and it ended up, after investigation, that it was probably not suitable to be purchased for the city as open space. What kind of mechanism do we have to perhaps identify or notify the department for such a thing? And maybe Director Campbell, if you want to chime in, either one of you is fine.
Well, Chair Gatta, yeah. So as you know, Elizabeth did reach out. Annette and I are able to do a decent amount of investigation. It was interesting. It was a parcel that was going to be auctioned off by county, and we're able to pull up GIS records so we can find out who owns it, how big it is, what's the zoning, and things like that. So if there's any parcel that you folks see or have questions about, shoot it over with the location. What we'll do is we can pull it up on Google Earth and Maps, get an address, and see what's going on with the parcel.
Thank you. Anything you want to add, Manager Saul, or anyone else? Yeah, sorry, I'm struggling on how to word this, but I do know that in certain cities and maybe certain elements of cities and functions, and I'm going to try and make this brief, we don't have that much time left. Bequeathment becomes something that the entities try to use to help with funding, and sometimes maybe that could also be with property. Is there any way that we kind of reach out to those who might be looking to bequeath chunks of property, maybe back to the city?
Chair Gatta, we can accept donations of many different magnitudes. I just would not know how to, I don't know that we don't have any type of directory or list of folks. Yeah. I mean, usually when folks are looking to donate something to the city, they contact the city.
Yeah, all right, great, thanks. Any other questions or comments? All right, Manager Carlin.
Thank you, Chair Giada. I just have a couple updates. Jennifer gave a very good overview of where we were in COVID and how we did programming and worked through our parks, et cetera. But I'm just going to share with you just a few numbers, just so you can kind of understand where we were in 2018 and 19.
Thank you.
In 2020. So in 2018 overall, we had 13,280 registrations. And the reason I say registrations and not participants is because some of those participants are repeat customers that take multiple programs or multiple sessions. In 2019, we saw a slight dip of 12,602 participants. And then in 2020, remember in 2020, we actually, and this is calendar years, not fiscal years, by the way. So this is January through December. In 2020, remember, we kind of shut everything down starting in March. So we saw a very big decline, and we went down to 4,542 registrations. In March and April of 2020, we actually halted all programs altogether. And then at the end of April, we started implementing some of our virtual programs. And then we got the go ahead from the county right around mid-June that we could start offering some outdoor programs and some outdoor camps with some parameters in place. And remember last year, the only beach program that we ran, which is, the beach programs are really our bread and butter of the summer, and all summer camps are our bread and butter. The only beach camp we actually ran was just a few sessions of surf camp. And then also one of our other bigger camps, which was Intrepid, we didn't hold that camp through the entire summer. And then our Seaside Day Camp, which is our signature camp that we do in-house with in-house staff, we were able to run that, but we were only able to run a certain number of cohort groups during each of the sessions for last summer. And then here in 2021, we now have 173 participants so far. Most of those are virtual or outdoor programs, but things are looking up. And I've actually been working very closely with Barbara Jimenez at the county and with their safe reopening coordinator. We've received some good news that we're able to step up our programming a little bit more this summer, as long as things keep heading in the direction that they are. And we've already started planning for our summer programming this year. So we do have a May-June guide that will be coming out digitally on March, and we'll be taking registrations on March 29th for the May-June programs. So that would not include the camps. And then our summer program guide that will include programs in July, August, and September. And then all of our summer camps will start taking registrations for that on April 19th. So that's a little bit behind when we normally get that summer camps guide out, but we just weren't quite certain yet which programs and which camps that we could offer. But we're pretty confident that we will be able to offer more substantial camps than we did last summer. They still will be a little bit more abbreviated than in normal times, but we're definitely looking forward to getting back to some normalcy this summer.
Excellent.
In addition to that, one other thing that's exciting to report is, as you remember, COVID hit us last year right before one of our signature events, which is the spring egg hunt out at Encinitas Community Park, which I know many of you have volunteered at in the past. Again, this summer, we're not going to be able to hold that event as we traditionally did, but we had 20,000 eggs over at the Community and Senior Center that we purchased right before that event last year. And we are currently working to stuff those eggs with candy and get them ready for an alternative event. We've actually partnered with the 101s and the Chamber of Commerce. And what we are doing, we're doing an Encinitas extravaganza this year. So what we're doing is we are soliciting 80 area businesses through the chambers and the 101s. They have a deadline of March 1st to get back to us on if they're interested in participating, and the chambers and the 101s are helping us to solicit those businesses. Once we have that list of businesses, we will be delivering between 45 and 50 bags of eggs to each of those businesses. And then they will be able to hand them out the weekend of April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at their business. And then we'll be promoting those businesses and driving people to their businesses to collect eggs and do some shopping at those businesses. In addition to that, we're also going to have 10 golden eggs, which are going to be hidden randomly amongst the bags. And those 10 golden eggs will each hold a $25 gift card. So kids are able to possibly win a golden egg with a gift card in it. So that's just a really great alternative. And I have to say, we started out with an idea, and it just kept snowballing and snowballing. And so it was a collaboration between a lot of people, including our director, Jennifer Campbell. She definitely had a hand in this as well. It was just a lot of conversations that came to the culmination of what this event will be. So we're very excited about that. Once we know who those businesses are, we will start marketing this event, and then also, getting it out through social media. We'll be making posters and such that will go in the area business windows. It'll be promoted through the chambers and the 101, or the chamber and the 101s. So we're very excited about that event taking the place of our annual icon this year.
Great.
And then in addition to that, I don't know if many of you have heard, but Christian Hernandez, who was instrumental in helping out with our youth sports organizations and working on field allocations through COVID, he actually accepted another position through the city of Tustin. He actually lives in Santa Ana, so we're very happy that he found a job that's close to home. But he will be very much missed. He was an amazing employee who did a lot of great work here in Encinitas, and definitely left his mark here. So we are actually recruiting for that position right now, and that position closes on March 1st. So we're looking forward to seeing if we can get some good candidates for that position.
Great.
And then I just wanted to echo Jennifer's sentiment with the commissioners that are leaving the commission. I thoroughly have enjoyed working with all three of you over the past 3 years. You've definitely challenged me sometimes, but you definitely bring a lot of good ideas to the table. You're always willing to listen, and you're always willing to work with staff. And I really felt like all three of you and the remainder of the commission as well have always supported us as staff. So I really appreciate your time.
I hate to do this on my last meeting, but we're at 7:21. Sorry, Courtney. I would be willing to entertain a motion for 15-minute extension. Marla Elliott moves it. A second.
Yeah.
All in favor? Oh, I guess we have to do a roll call. Sorry. Melody?
Yes. Chair Giada,
Aye.
Vice Chair Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Brady,
No.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Goode,
Aye.
Commissioner Lappin,
I'm a nay.
and Commissioner O'Halloran.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Manager Carlin. Any comments or questions for Manager Carlin? What about Cyclovia? That's coming up. There's a planning meeting. Christine Schneider, I guess, spoke at the last Park and Rec Commission meeting. What is going on with that event?
Chair Gatta, actually Cyclovia kicked off on Sunday, January 17th. So that is it is a virtual event. So there's nothing in person. The website is up and running. There is an e-bike education class coming up on this Friday. So I'm not sure, but I think maybe if Annette didn't send the website, I know we talked about it. I know that I spoke about it in January to the commission and gave that website address. But it's encinitasca.gov /Cyclovia. So that's going to be something that'll run all year, but it kicked off on the 17th. But we don't do new things. We just kind of update, and there's different classes. So
Okay.
That was a virtual event that kicked off.
Yeah, I was given a meeting date of March 30th at 5:30, I guess, for the ongoing effort for that event. All right, great. May I have the agenda, please? I don't have that up right now. I think that's the last of it, right? We're going to go to Commissioner's Corner. All right, Commissioner's Corner. Commissioner O'Halloran, have you got anything for us?
I just wanted to say thanks to the departing commissioners for welcoming me as a new commissioner. I know this year was not a perfect year to join, but you all have made it a very good experience. And so really appreciate your efforts and your service to the commission over the years.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Lappin.
I will echo those same sentiments. So thank you all. We will miss you. And for probably Manager Saul, this is mostly directed towards, I think, the facilities, but as I mentioned earlier, that we've been at Glen Park a lot, and I'm sure you're aware of the homeless situation that has been seemingly increasing there throughout COVID. And there are sheriffs on site almost daily at this point addressing it. And I don't come with a solution, but I do come with an observation that it's honestly less the presence of homeless people in the park, but there's a lot of profanity that is yelled very loudly, a lot of talk of weapons and fighting. And it's, I don't know how you solve it, but it is something that if you haven't personally experienced, I just wanted to bring to your attention. We've been there. We're there most days now in some capacity. They're down at the playground or up top by where the trees and the grass are. And there's altercations almost every single time that we're there. So I wish I came to you with solutions and ideas, but it was just something I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of. And if you hadn't experienced it firsthand, that you knew that it was something that is ongoing and very, very loud, which is, I think, the hardest part with young children around hearing some of the things that are said. And yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Yeah, Director Campbell, please.
Commissioner Lappin, we are very aware. I am the main point of contact for the Sheriff's Department and Lieutenant Norton. We're working on many different solutions. I'm also working with Jennifer Gates and our HOPE team on helping these folks. So we are extremely aware. I've actually had a meeting with Cardiff 101. So that is kind of my daily thing. I'm getting updates from the Sheriff's Department, our HOPE team. So I just wanted you to know we're actually looking at some different ways of handling this. We're looking at some different options in the park. So very aware. I'm sorry for your experience. We've all talked about it's a very delicate and difficult situation, but yes, we are very aware and we're on it, and I appreciate it. I just wanted you to know.
Well, and for what it's worth, it's been the people who are coming to address it have been incredibly professional. There's nothing hostile. It's nothing aggressive, which is where it's a very sensitive thing that I understand the hardship that's happening. So I just wanted to give the perspective, but thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Elliott.
Olympus Park. I was just there today. Of course, it's all fenced in, but I took everything that Chair Giada's ever taught me, and I just sort of went around those fences and kind of wandered into the park. And it looks really adorable. It looks so cute. It's so colorful. The zip lines all bright yellow and everything up at the top. All the playground equipment is vibrant. And on the bottom, I love the sports court is purple. So yay, you're right. It's really set a new standard for how cute parks should be. And thank you for all the good work with it. Everybody's done on that. I won't say goodbye to you individually, the three of you, because I just get sappy. So let me just say that, nobody volunteers to be on a commission unless their heart's in the right place. And that's true for the three of you. And I know that you're not really going away. You're just going to keep popping up in the community discourse, and the community is better for it. So thank you.
Yeah, like a persistent weed. Vice Chair Warren.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to start and just say it's been great working with Commissioners Lappin and Goad, the ones who are not leaving. And I look forward to
Goad?
Goad, yes. And for however it worked out, I was lucky or cursed to work with only them. But I hope to work with Commissioner O'Halloran and Elliott in the work plan. And now moving on to the three, it's been really great working with you. I'm sorry. Oh, right. Sorry, not Goad. Goad he's one of the outgoing.
Yes.
But working with Doug and Elizabeth, we did not get to do a whole lot. I got to hang out with you at a sweetheart dance once. That was fun.
That's not bad.
And Chair Giada, you've been really helpful, and Director Campbell is right. You are a real resource, and you've really taught me a lot. And I enjoyed working on the non-food and wine festival, the one that didn't happen. That's probably where I got to know you the best. But thank you very much, and I'm sure I'll see all of you in the coming days, and months.
Commissioner Brady.
Thanks, first of all, to staff for absolutely everything. Thank you for my fellow commissioners. And I have to say, when I look at the commissioners who remain on this commission, they're phenomenal. You guys are really well positioned to change Encinitas for the better. So I'm very proud of you guys, and I wish you the best in service. So thank you all.
Excellent. Commissioner Goad.
Well, I wanted to bring up something tonight, since my last night, and give credit where credit is due. I was, when I first moved to Encinitas in '93, we did it for equestrian reasons, to find equestrian property. And we began to realize that trails were disappearing. So we had to figure out a way to try to preserve trails. Well, I happened to meet a guy named Peter Felance, who is a general contractor. His business is out in Escondido at this point. And he made it clear to me, or helped me understand, that we needed to do something that would get the attention of the city council and help us establish a trail system in Encinitas. So he said, well, I'll tell you what, there's a park out there called Little Oaks Park, and I will donate the work, and the city has the money. And so Peter went ahead and volunteered his company to build that park based on our work together to establish the trails that we wanted in Encinitas, in Olivenhain and Encinitas. So through that park construction that Peter pioneered, that initiated the whole trails system program in Encinitas back in 1990, late 90s, 2000, something in that ballpark. So it was tremendous to have discovered him, and that we were actually able to establish the Trails Master Plan. So that's, if anything, I know it because I've been involved with it a long time. I'm not so sure I'm all that creative, but I'm just definitely a follower of interest there. So it'd be nice if we could recognize him in some way on that park, Jennifer. If you want to discuss that at some point down the road, I think that'd be a good idea.
All right. Well, thank you. I've been on the commission a long time, but Commissioner Goad has been on it much longer, and he is definitely the Iron Man of the Park and Rec Commission. Thank you for your long, many years of service and your dedication, especially to things like equestrian and trail topics. I hope you will still be involved in those. And Commissioner Brady, you're very intelligent, matter of fact, cut through the red tape and the BS approach. It is sorely needed and will be sorely missed. And I wish I still internalize that better, but that's okay. In my decrepit old age, I just don't seem to care about those things as much anymore. So so I worry about hair and make funny quips. So thank you to staff, obviously. First of all, Crystal Roth is hidden behind the seal there. And she is, if Commissioner Goad is the Iron Man of the commission, it's Crystal Roth who is the Iron Woman of the department. Obviously, we have Nick Buck in the background somewhere, and Melody and Annette and Travis. And of course, our fearless leader, Director Campbell. You are the most senior department head, I think, in the city. And so that's a testament to your persistence and endurance. And thank you for being a very cheery and shiny light and in approaching a lot of the problems that we see, because typically, you know, when the community comes to you, they're with problems, right? Whether it's beacons, you know, access or whatever it is. And so you do keep a very positive, fast-paced talking attitude, which is good, because otherwise people like me get a word in edgewise, and much appreciated. Thank you so much for helping with your guidance and your patience and your forbearance when we kind of might be trying to lead astray, and you kind of gently nudge us back on the path of righteousness, I guess, for anything else. When I started, so I'm going to do something here. The first thing that I did was with Bob Nanica. It was Encinitas Environment Day. I created this poster in like 15 minutes on Word. It's hilarious, but it was cute and simple. And you know, it wasn't anything that I was looking at when I started this commission. I came on because the Leucadia roadside park needed some sort of fencing to keep kids from chasing a ball out into the street, and it wasn't getting done, and they said join the commission. So 150 million years later, here I am. I still have one of our wonderful shirts from Encinitas Environment Day with our lovely logo. There you go. And you know, just remember, we are still doing EcoFest. Our next bi-weekly meeting is next Monday. And we're also doing a virtual Earth Day in conjunction with the City of Encinitas, with the Environmental Commission and the CAP people. And that's every other week. And that's, we just had it, so it's 2 weeks from yesterday. So anyway, thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it. You guys have been much more patient and gracious than I deserve. And with that, I will call the meeting adjourned, only 6 minutes after the 7:30. Thank you, Courtney.